Hello everyone and good morning and welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi, Bava Kamma 83 Omadei. The mission says, one who injures another is liable to pay compensation for that injury due to five types of indemnity. He must pay for damage, for pain, for medical costs, for loss of livelihood, and for humiliation. One who strikes another transgresses a Torah prohibition. One who raises his hand with the intent to strike another is considered a wicked person, even if he does not strike him. The Gemara writes that one who strikes another is subject to excommunication imposed by the rabbis of previous generations, and the burn must be sin in order for him to be included in the quorum of 10. I'm safe in the and Hilchit Hova Umazik 5:1 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mitzvot 421 and the Pitei Teshuvah there. One who injures another must pay 5 types of indemnity: damage, pain, medical cost, loss of livelihood, and humiliation. One who causes damage must pay indemnity from his superior quality land, as is the halacha with regard to the payment of all damages. The Gemara writes that medical costs include any special food that the injured party is required to eat during his convalescence. Sefer Nezich and Hilchot Mazik 1:1 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mitzvot 423. How is payment for damage assessed? Benezek, for damage. How does the court assess monetary value of the damage? If the injured party lost a limb or sustained a permanent injury, the court considers how much he would have been worth as a slave sold in the slave market, and appraises how much its value had been reduced due to the injury. The Ramah explains that if the injury interferes with the ability of the injured party to work in his profession, this is also factored into the appraisal. I'm safe in the Hilchot Hova Umazik 1:1 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mitzvot 4:2015. If one blinded another's eye, severed his hand, broke his leg, or caused any other injury, the court views the injured party as though he were a slave being sold in the slave market, and the court appraises how much he was worth before the injury and how much he is worth after the injury. The commentaries write that this appraisal takes into account the person's age, sex, health, professional skills, just like the appraisal of a slave. Most agree with Rashi's opinion that the court appraised the injured party's value as a Hebrew slave. The term of slavery is 6 years, whereas the Rosh writes that he is appraised as a Canaanite slave who is sold for life. The difference between these two sums is the amount that one must pay for causing damage. How is payment of pain assessed? Sa'ar, pain. If one caused pain to another in a way that leaves no bruise and does not interfere with the latter's ability to work, he pays compensation for pain alone. How is his payment assessed? The assessment depends on the amount the injured party would have been willing to pay to be spared from the pain he endured. One with a low tolerance for pain, or one who is wealthy, would be willing to pay a great amount before he would accept a small degree of suffering, whereas one who is hardy or poor would be willing to suffer more to avoid a monetary loss. I'm safe in the Zich and Hilchot Hova Umazik 2:3 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mitzvot 429:16. If one burned another with a skewer, b'masmer, b'shup, where's the word? B'shupad. What's a b'shupad? A shupad, a skewer, from the Greek sobdos, meaning ashes. This refers to a wooden or metal pole that one thrusts into meat in order to roast it on a fire, or with a hot nail, or even if one burned another on his fingernail, which is a place where he does not cause a bruise that would affect the range value on the slave market. The court advises how much money a person with a similar threshold for pain as the victim is willing to take in order to be made to suffer in this way. The one who has burned the victim must then pay this amount. How is payment for medical costs assessed? Bifu. To assess the payment for medical costs, the court appraises how much the injured party will need to pay for medical treatment until he is fully healed. The one who caused the damage should pay this immediately. If he prefers to pay medical costs as he arrives each day, he may do so. Sefer Nezich and Hilchot Hova Mazik 2:14 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mitzvot 4:18-19. If one struck another, then he is liable to heal him by paying him for his medical costs. In a case where growths, what does that mean? Samachim, growth, although samachim generally means plants. In a medical context, it means growth. On occasion, a wound does not form a proper scab, and growth of flesh appear, which disturb the healing process and cause additional suffering, e.g. blisters or rashes appeared on the injured party. In the event that the one who is liable to pay the damage did not set aside the funds for the injured party's medical expenses from the outset, but rather pay the medical costs as they arise, and then the injured party suffers from growth or the injury heals and reopens, if this resulted from the original injury, then the one who is liable to pay the damage must compensate the injured party for the new medical costs and loss of livelihood. But if the growths are related to the original injury, he is exempt. Zeven Azich and Hilchet Ahova Mazik 219 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mitzvah 2019. E.g. blisters or rashes appeared on the injured party. I said that. If the growths are due to the blow, the one who struck him is liable. If the growths are not due to the blow, the one who struck him is exempt. In a case where the wound healed, and then reopened and healed again, and then reopened, and the one who struck him remained liable to heal the injured party by paying for his medical costs, it is apparent that the current wound resulted from the original injury. If the injury healed fully, the one who struck him is not liable to heal him by paying for any subsequent medical costs. How is payment of livelihood assessed? Shevis, loss of livelihood. If one caused another to lose a limb, he paid the injured party the monetary value of that limb, as explained in the Gemara. The court then appraises how much income the injured party would lose during his convalescence if he were a watchman of cucumbers and cannot perform even this basic task. The Gemara writes that if the injured party has a profession he can resume after his recovery, then he is compensated for loss of livelihood incurred during his period of convalescence. Sefer Nazir and Mazik 211 Choshen Mitzvah 2017. The court views the injured party as though he were a watchman of cucumbers. Shuim. The reason for this compensation is that while the injured party convalesces, he is confined to his bed and cannot perform any type of labor, including that which does not require physical exertion or movement. The court views the injured party as though he was a watcher of cucumbers, said that, and the one who caused him injury must compensate him based on that pay scale for the income that he lost during his convalescence. This indemnity does not take into account the value of the standard wage of the injured party, because one who caused him injury already gave him compensation for his hand or compensation for his leg, and that compensation took into account his professional skills. How is payment for humiliation assessed? Bosh's humiliation. The court appraises the value of humiliation based on the stature and importance of the one who humiliates the other and the one who is humiliated. From the Sefer Nazir and Hilchet Ahova Mazik 3:1 in 2024. It all depends on the stature of the one who humiliates the other and the one who is humiliated. Rashi explains that if one who causes the humiliation is of low social stature, humiliation he causes another is greater than that caused by people of average social stature. Conversely, if one who is humiliated is held in high esteem, humiliation experience is greater than that felt by people of average social stature. Other commentaries explain that the humiliation caused by a person of average social stature is greater than that caused by someone of either low or high social stature. See the Rambam of Vadi Batanor and Tosfos Yom Tov on Ketubot 3:7. The Gemara asks, why does the Mishnah take for granted the fact that one who caused injury is liable to pay compensation to the injured party? The merciful one states in the Torah, an eye for an eye, Exodus 21:24. Ayin tachas ayin. With regard to causing an injury to another, the verse is written in the Torah, an eye for an eye, Exodus 21:24. And similarly, as he has given a blemish to a person, so shall be given unto him. Leviticus 24:20 are not to be understood literally. Rather, the Torah means that one who injures another pays one to compensation corresponding to the injury. If Mazik 1:2-5, you might say that this means the one who caused injury shall lose an actual eye rather than pay money. Corresponding that interpretation not into your mind. The principle implicit in the Mishnah is derived from a verbal analogy in the Torah, as is taught in a Braita, based on the verse an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot. It is 21:24. One might have thought that if one blinded the eye of another, the court blinds his eye's punishment, or if one severed the hand of another, the court severs his hand, or if one broke the leg of another, the court breaks his leg. Therefore, the verse states, one who strikes a person, and also the verse states, and one who strikes an animal, to teach that just as one who strikes an animal is liable to pay monetary compensation, so too one who strikes a person is liable to pay monetary compensation. And if it is your wish to say that there is an objection to this derivation, there is an alternative derivation. This phrase is short for a longer expression. And if it is your wish to say that there is an objection, where the Tana does not spell out the objection but immediately provides a response. This style is similar to the Aramaic phrase in the Gemara. If you wish say, which often introduce an alternative explanation, this phrase, however, assumes that a difficulty exists in the first explanation, which necessitates a new explanation. The verse states, and you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty, but he shall die. Numbers 35:31. This indicates that it is only for the life of a murderer that you shall not take ransom, but you shall take ransom for one who severed another's extremities. This is referring to severing a limb either partially or its entirety. The same halacha applies to other injuries. This the meaning of the verse, and if a man maims his neighbor as he has done, so shall it be done to him. Leviticus 24:19 is that the one who causes an injury deserves to have the same injury inflicted upon him. The money he pays is a ransom to escape that punishment. Rambam see the Ravid. Which now goes to the death of a limb, as several limbs do not regenerate. The Gemara asks, to which verse is the Braita referring when it quotes one who strikes a person and one who strikes an animal? If we say that the Braita is referring to the verse, one who strikes an animal shall pay its compensation, and one who strikes a person shall be put to death, Leviticus 24:21, this cannot be, as that verse is written with regard to killing, not injury, and there is no monetary compensation for killing. Rather, the Braita refers to the verse from here. One who strikes an animal mortally shall pay its compensation, and life for life. Leviticus 24:18. Just opposed to that is the verse, and if a man maims his neighbor as he has done, so shall it be done to him. Leviticus 24:19. The Gemara challenges, but this latter verse does not use the expression one who strikes, which is the basis for the comparison in the Braita. The Gemara responds, we are stating an analogy from striking to striking that is based not upon the exact phrasing of the verse, but upon the detail of the halacha as follows. Just as the act of striking that is stated but an animal renders one liable to pay monetary compensation, so too the act of striking that is stated with regard to a person renders one liable to pay monetary compensation. The Gemara challenges, but isn't it written in the verses discussing one who injures another, and a man who strikes any person mortally shall be put to death, Leviticus 24:17, which presumably means that in the case of one who severs another's extremity, the same injury, i.e. death of a limb, is done to the person who causes the injury, and he does not pay monetary compensation. The Gemara answers, the verse does not mean that his limb shall be put to death, i.e. removed, but rather that he should pay compensation with money. The Gemara asks, from where do you say that the verse is referring to paying compensation with money? Why not say that he is punished with actual death, i.e. loss of a limb? The Gemara answers, that interpretation should not enter your mind for two reasons. One reason is that this verse is juxtaposed to the following verse. One who strikes an animal mortally shall pay its compensation, Leviticus 24:18. And furthermore, it is written after it, a fracture for a fracture, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. As he is given a blemish to a person, so shall it be given unto him. 24:20. And learn from the use of the word given, the verse referring to money. The Gemara asks, and what potential difficulty with the first derivation did the Braita refer to when it prefaces second derivation with the phrase, if it is your wish to say? The Gemara explains the Braita means that a further difficulty was troubling to the Tana. What did you see that led you to derive the principle of monetary payment from the phrase, one who strikes an animal? Why not derive the halach from the verse, one who strikes a person shall be put to death, Leviticus 24:21? and then that causing an injury renders one liable to receive physical retribution, and is to death and not monetary payment. Although the Gemara wishes to derive the halacha concerning injury, not murder, the comparison here would teach that just as the court actually takes life for life in the case of murder, so too they should actually take an eye for an eye in the case of injury. The sages say in response, halacha of damages are derived from a verse concerning damages, and halacha of damages are not derived from a verse concerning death. The moral questions this statement. On the contrary, why not say that the halachot concerning a person are derived from a verse concerning a person, or concerning a person are not derived from a verse concerning animals? To deflect this question, this is consistent with that which the second derivation of the Braita teaches. If it did your wish to say that there is an objection to this derivation, there is an alternative derivation, as the verse states, and you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, for he shall die. Leviticus 35:31. This indicates that it is only for the life of a murderer that you shall not take ransom, but you shall take ransom for one who severed another's extremities, which are neither to the death of a limb, as severed limbs do not regenerate. The Gemara challenges this claim. But is this verse, you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer, coming to exclude the case of one who severs another's extremities from the prohibition against taking ransom? In this verse necessary to teach that which the merciful one states, you shall not mete out two punishments to him. I do not take money from him as ransom and also kill him. And one answers, that halacha derived from the verse, then it shall be, if the guilty deserves to be lashed, that the judge shall lie him down and flog him before him according to the measure of his evil doing, Deuteronomy 25:2. From the fact that evil doing is singular, the Gemara homiletically infers, for one evil doing you can render him liable, but you cannot render him liable for two evil doings, i.e. one cannot receive two punishments for the same act. The Gemara challenges this explanation. But the verse, you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer for one who is guilty of death. So what does that mean? It is still necessary to teach the primary halacha that taught in that verse, in which the merciful one states, you shall not take money and thereby exempt the guilty from being put to death. The court is commanded not to accept money to exempt a murderer who is liable to receive capital punishment or exile. The court is commanded not to accept money to exempt a murderer who is liable to receive capital punishment or exile, even if the victim's relative, who may avenge his death, desires such a punishment. This is because the murderer's life does not belong to the avenger but to God. 1:4. The verse does not serve to exclude liability to pay damages from the prohibition against paying restitution. The Gemara answers, if so, if the Torah desires to teach only that the court cannot take ransom to spare the murderer from being put to death, that the merciful one write in the Torah, you shall not take ransom, and follow it immediately with the phrase, for one who is guilty of death. Why do I need the Torah to also state for the life of a murderer? Learn from the addition of that phrase that it is only for the murderer that you shall not take ransom, but you shall take ransom for one who severed another's extremities, which not regenerate once severed. The Gemara asks, and once it is written, you shall not take ransom, why do I need the first derivation of the Braita, which juxtaposes the one who strikes a person to one who strikes an animal? The sages say in response, if the halacha were to be derived only from that verse which states, you shall not take ransom, number 35:31, I would say, if the one who caused the damage desires, that was when the Gemara never intended for the one who caused the damage to choose his punishment. Rather, the possibility raised here is that the injured party can choose which punishment will be enforced. Tosfos Rebbeinu imposes one version of the text explicitly raises both possibilities, that the one who caused the damage may choose his punishment, and that the injured party can choose the punishment Maharshal. He may choose to give his eye, and if he desires, he may choose to give the monetary value of his eye. Therefore, the Torah teaches us to derive this halacha from that of an animal. Just as one who strikes an animal is liable to pay monetary compensation and does not receive corporal punishment, so too one who strikes a person is liable to pay monetary compensation and does not receive corporal punishment. The Gemara presents a series of derivations for the principle that one who injures another is liable to pay monetary compensation. It is taught in the Baita. Rabbi Dosta ben Yehuda, the 6th generation Tana Rabbi Dostai ben Yehuda, was a contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and a disciple of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, whom he cites on a number of occasions and whose opinions he endeavors to uphold. In this Gemara as well, he is attempting to prove his teacher's contention that an eye for an eye is referring to monetary restitution. Says, the phrase an eye for an eye in Leviticus 24:20 means monetary restitution. Do you say that he must pay the victim monetary restitution, or is it only teaching that the one who caused the injury must lose an actual eye? You say there may be a case where the eye of the one who caused the injury is large, the eye of the injured party is small. How can I read